Now on to If Under the Sun's where you're heading this summer, Penny Junor has advice on some high and low spots in the travel show.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Show. Tonight, John Thirlwell visits Fethiye on the southwest coast of Turkey. Matthew Collins reports on the Tatra Mountains in southeast Poland. Our UK mini guide is to the area around Dover in East Kent. And if you've booked a holiday in Magaluf at the Coral Playa, stand by for a surprise. If you're flying this Sunday afternoon from Gatwick to Malaga on Monarch Airlines flight 842, don't bank on being in Spain in time for dinner. For the last 7 weeks, that flight has been consistently 5 hours late. Coming back, it's been up to 6 hours late. In fact, airport staff seem to take it for granted. The only people expecting it to run on time seem to be the passengers. Last Sunday, Monarch blamed air traffic control problems, but Gatwick Airport told us there weren't any. Another week, Monarch blamed French air traffic control, but the captain told the passengers the delay was due to operational technical difficulties. The aircraft is an Airbus A300. It leaves Gatwick on Saturday evening and goes to Malta, has a quick turnaround and is due back in Gatwick on Sunday morning. Then it goes to Ibiza, has another quick turnaround and is due back at 13:30. It is then scheduled to go to Malaga at 14:45, and that's the flight passengers are complaining about. Monarch tells us the delays have been in Malta, but other Airbus operators we spoke to were surprised by the tightness of Monarch's schedule. Dan Air says they allow at least an hour and a half for each turnaround. Another operator said they need 2 to 3 hours. Monarch now tells us they hope to reschedule other flights to reduce the delay. In the meantime, we think Monarch ought to come clean. It's too easy nowadays to blame air traffic control for everything. Now our resort report. This week we're in Turkey in the eastern Mediterranean and we're featuring Fethiye on the southwestern coast. The nearest airport is at Dalaman. It takes about 4¼ hours to fly there from the UK, then it's at least a 1 hour's drive to the resort. Fethiye faces north at the head of a narrow sheltered bay. In 1957, the town was almost totally destroyed by an earthquake. It was rebuilt on the same site with the original port still the town centre. Kalish, the tourist quarter, is a couple of miles to the north. The beach there is long and straight. There is virtually no sand, just pebbles, but it's quiet and fairly clean. Better beaches are out of town. The best known, Olu Deniz, is about 8 miles away. Fethiye is both a resort and a working town. Hotels vary enormously in standard. Those in the town centre are inevitably noisy. Rooms in a pension can be found for about £5 a night. Getting about is inexpensive. Dolmus minibuses are a bargain. 60p will get you almost anywhere in the area. Taxis are cheap, but fix a price in advance. Car hire is about £25 a day for a standard saloon. Petrol is under £1 a gallon. Many tourists, though, hire motorbikes. Eating out in Turkey is normally cheap. For £4, a typical meal would include a spicy lamb kebab, together with a selection of starters. A word of warning, though, about the wine. It tends to be far sweeter than it says on the label. Popular buys include vases and plates, carpets and rugs, leather goods and traditional copperware in all sizes. The best outing is to take a cruise to the nearby inshore islands. At £3.50 for a day trip, it's considered excellent value. Well, those were some of the basic facts about Fethiye, but what's it like to go there for a holiday? Here's John Thirlwell's personal view of the place.
If Turkey's the country where Europe turns into Asia, then Fethiye for me is the town which manages to be a bit of both. For this is a place that's neither knout nor summit, as my Yorkshire neighbours might say. A walk down what amounts to being the high street left me with a heavy dose of culture shock. I was confronted with sights that were familiar one minute, totally new the next. There was the good old designer trendy store you'll find all across the Med. And nearby a shop stocked with all the usual lurid Dayglow t-shirts any sunburnt raver could ever need to match their blistered limbs. With the right gear and the right cheapo jewellery, guaranteed to fall apart the moment it's put on, you and your girl might even be ready for a party at that dangerously named hostelry down the street. Yes, Fetcher seemed to be offering a truly traditional Mediterranean holiday. But wait a minute, what was this? Hello.
Hello.
Now then, spices, lovely.
Yeah, they're well.
Laid out in plastic boxes were all the flavours of the Orient. They smelt terrific and cost virtually nothing.
How much do you want?
Oh, I don't know, about a bag, half a bag?
Yeah, half a bag is about 10,000 extra.
Okay, I'll have one of those.
Yeah.
My saffron cost less than a 20th of the UK price. And there were even sweeter flavours lurking beneath that lacy tablecloth. Mandarin flavoured Turkish delight. While some Brits were settling down to a healthy dose of instant coffee and lager, I decided to sample yet more delights. Mint tea. The locals drink it all the time, and it was supplied free by the leather shop owner, who threw in the sales pitch at the same time. It's nice, refreshing.
Stomach.
How much is that?
For you. Very cheap price.
It's very cheap.
Yes.
And this is pure silk.
Yeah, this one is pure silk.
Let's have a look then. It's a prayer rug.
Yeah, prayer rug. And this is the direction of Mecca.
In Fethiye, you'll find that being chatted up by shopkeepers is something to be enjoyed rather than endured. The patter gets more colourful every time.
They call these carpets Rolls Royces.
The Rolls-Royce carpets.
Yeah.
It's all part of the Turkish way of life, which demands that you talk things over before doing business. You see, this is real Turkey, and they carry on here regardless of us tourists. Whether it's the peasants who've come down from the mountains, or those 8-year-old girls playing backgammon on their front doorstep, the Turks in Fethiye seem to be quite happy without holidaymakers. And that, of course, makes us happy too. For this is an unspoiled town. It's also a town that was built long before the package tour jets began to fly in. Fethiye's seen many different cultures before. Now, Fethiye used to be called Megri or Makri, and before that it was the ancient Lycian city of Telmessos, which, according to the guidebook, was famous in the time of King Croesus for its soothsayers. And somewhere around here at the back of the town you can still find Lycian rock tombs, just a short stroll from the town centre, as it says in the book. Ah! In fact, the rock tombs are a bit of a disappointment. These majestic porticos cut out of the mountain are all there is, and for me, when you've seen one, you've seen them all. Time to take off, and where better than Belgies Beach? Belgies is a 40p bus ride from Fethiye and the place to relax by the sea. The main beach has a large lagoon behind it, Ulu Deniz, and its dead calm waters are ideal for young kids. It's a great arrangement, really. The children relax in the lagoon, leaving the adults to relax in the sea. Swimming in the Aegean is wonderful. The water's so clean and warm. But be warned, this beach gets hectic in high season. I took a ride on one of the many tourist boats that ferry people from bay to bay around this coast and headed for Karacavan Island. It was lunchtime and the fish restaurant here had been strongly recommended by my bus driver. When the food arrived, I saw why.
Bon appétit.
Thank you. Freshly caught fish, baked in a spicy stew, was the only item on offer. But it was so delicious, who was going to argue? To round the meal off, a tomato, pepper and mint salad and newly baked bread. And all this for £1.50. But there was more. Mine host was so keen to please that he regaled me with one of Turkey's most famous love songs. You are my sun and my stars. You are moonlight and the comrade of my soul. It all seemed harmless stuff to this particular Englishman who had in any case decided to sit this one out. In the evening, Fethiye town grinds gently to a complete halt as workers and tourists unwind after the day's exertions. There's not much nightlife here. Instead, holidaymakers and locals alike slip into a kind of gentle trance. Nobody's rushing, everything's fine. Only tomorrow's soccer superstars have the energy for a last kick-around before bed. And before the sun sets, there's just time to reconsider what the guidebook had said. Fetchia, a place where the west meets the east. It's true, of course.
Now, our verdict on Fetchia. We think the plus points are that it's cheap, it's unspoilt, and there's lots of local atmosphere. On the minus side, the beaches in Fetchia are not very good, and if you're a single woman, you're likely to be hassled by the local men. In fact, single women should think very seriously before planning to go anywhere in Turkey alone. Now, the cost of getting to Fethiye. The easiest way is on a charter flight to Dalaman. In high season, it costs from £179 return from London. To go overland is not that practical for most people. Train to Istanbul is £263 and takes about 3 days. Then it would be a 12-hour bus ride to Fethiye. The local currency is the Turkish lira. The current rate is 4,650 lira to the pound, but the money is constantly being devalued. It's far better to change any money there. Incidentally, you now need a visa to visit Turkey, but you don't need to fill in any forms. It's more of an entry fee. They collect £5 sterling from every Briton on arrival, and if you nip over to a Greek island on a day trip, you'll have to pay another £5 when you get back to Turkey. Now, what's the weather like there? Well, with me is John Thorns from the University of Birmingham. John, it looked fabulous in the film.
Yes, there's a veritable heat wave on there at the moment, with temperatures up to 40 degrees Celsius in the shade recorded there last week. Now, that's not untypical because July is the hottest month. But the season is quite a long one, actually. It runs from the end of April right the way through to October. And if we look at the maximum temperatures, you can see that they go from about 23 degrees Celsius in May up to about 28 degrees, which is 82 degrees Fahrenheit, in July and August, which is very nice. And lots of sunshine, because more than 8 hours right the way through from April to September, which is great. And consequently, virtually no rainfall in summer. It's virtual drought. July and August, there's nothing. And June and September, just a chance of a shower.
And is the sea warm?
Yes, it passes the rule of toe test of 20 degrees from June right the way through to November.
And where would you put it on your comfort chart?
Well, it scores excellent from May right the way through to September, so it's very good.
One snag, we did mention earthquakes in the film. Is it a risky area?
Well, our friends in the British Geological Survey tell us that there is a chance of 12 recordable tremors in this area every year. But that's not untypical for the Eastern Mediterranean. So if you are out there on holiday, you may feel a slight tremor.
Is it enough to stop you going?
Oh, no, it's no worse than Italy or Greece.
And tell me, what's the weather going to be like this weekend?
Well, it's continuing hot in the Mediterranean, with temperatures of about 30 degrees in Madrid, 28 degrees in Rome, which is great for spectating but not for playing football, and about 32 degrees in Athens, and up to 34 maybe in Fethiye. Further north, a bit more reasonable weather, with maybe 21 in Munich, but only 18 in Edinburgh. So if you like the hot temperatures and you like the sunshine like you do, Penny, I should get out to the Greek islands or southern Turkey this weekend.
Thank you, John. Now, the late availabilities. First, if you can leave tomorrow evening, 1 week's bed and breakfast in the Austrian Tyrol, travelling by luxury coach from London, £69. Leaving on Saturday, 2 weeks self-catering in Gran Canaria from Birmingham, £199. Also on Saturday, flight only to Naples from Gatwick, £69. Leaving on Sunday, flight only to Ajaccio in Corsica from Gatwick, £99. Also on Sunday, 3 weeks camping on either the Costa Brava or Costa Dorada in Spain from Gatwick, £165. Or 2 weeks self-catering on the Costa del Sol from East Midlands, £119. Finally, on Wednesday, flight only to Pula in Yugoslavia from Gatwick, £76. All these prices are for return flights. You can find additional details on CFAX, page 619, and on our information line, 061 814 3222. Now, a story from the Moan line. Greta and Harold Brooks from Manchester booked a holiday in Mallorca. They booked with Enterprise for a week at the Hotel Coral Playa in Magaluf. When they arrived at Palma Airport, the Enterprise rep told them they were staying at a different hotel, the Barbados.
They told us the Coral Playa Hotel was closed. We were very annoyed because we'd had no warning from Enterprise about this. We picked the Coral Playa because it was right on the beach with lovely sea views and offered a proper waiter service.
Sol, the owners of both hotels, say they told all operators that the Coral would not open at all this summer. Yesterday when we checked, Enterprise was still offering holidays at the Coral Playa. Today they could offer no explanation as to why they had told neither their staff nor their customers that the hotel was closed. Well, if you've booked there, one thing is for sure, you won't be staying there. Remember, if things are going wrong with your holiday, we'd like to hear from you. Leave a message on our Moan line, 061 200 2999. It's switched on 24 hours a day. With all the concern about safety on aircraft with X-ray machines and body searches, what are you currently not allowed to take on board with you? Group Captain Roy Humphreson of the UK Flight Safety Committee is with me. Firstly, Roy, what's the difference between safety and security?
Security is concerned with the deliberate carriage of dangerous goods with malintent. Safety is concerned with the carriage of everyday items innocently by passengers which can be dangerous in an aircraft.
So what are those innocent items that we might carry?
Well, a simple mercury thermometer is extremely dangerous in that the mercury, should it break, is very corrosive and will burn through the aluminium structure of the aeroplane like a cigarette burning through paper.
So no thermometers like that?
No mercury thermometers. Another dangerous item are books of non-safety matches, which are collected in bars and restaurants. They can jostle together in baggage and catch light. That is very dangerous. Also dangerous are aerosols. However, you are permitted to take gas hair curlers with you. Refills are not permitted.
Aerosols, can you take hairsprays?
Yes, you can take hairsprays in the cabin, enough, but not a large amount, and only for your own personal use.
What else should you warn us about?
Well, electronic goods are a problem. We advise that batteries are removed from all electronic goods in the air. There has been an instance where a pilot lost communication with the ground totally for a number of minutes, and on checking the passengers found that one of them was using some electronic equipment, and it blotted out communications completely.
Good Lord. Is alcohol a problem?
Well, we are campaigning to prevent passengers drinking their own alcohol, and that is probably duty-free alcohol picked up at departure on the flight.
Why?
We would like to see legislation, well, because drunks on aeroplanes are very offensive and dangerous and compromise the safety of an aeroplane. There have been examples over the last couple of years where aircraft have diverted and offloaded passengers because they have been drunk. In one particular case, an aircraft from southern Europe landed in Europe. The passenger was asked to make his own way home by surface means, and when he got home he was presented with a bill for the cost of the diversion of the aeroplane.
Why are we not aware of all this?
Well, there is literature available. However, it isn't well publicised, and I believe that we should educate our passengers better for the benefit of flight safety throughout.
Roy, thank you very much. Well, the CAA publish a leaflet on air safety. You should be able to pick up a copy at your travel agents, but if not, send us a stamped addressed envelope. The leaflet, by the way, is free. Now, our UK mini-guide. This week we're in East Kent, looking at Dover and the coastline to the north of the town. Dover has excellent communications. It's 58 miles from the M25. There's a good train service from central London, and National Express coaches also serve the town. This is roughly the area we're looking at. It includes Sandwich, Deal, Walmer, and of course Dover itself.
Dover is best known as a ferry port and for its white cliffs. They're actually a greyish chalk, and not unique to Dover. They stretch for miles in both directions. Dover's been a harbour since Roman times and is now the main passenger port for holidaymakers leaving Britain. But the traffic is two-way. For most continentals, the White Cliffs are their first view of Britain. Many come to Dover for the day on shopping or school trips, much as we go to Boulogne or Calais. Although not a typical seaside resort, Dover has a long history with many places to visit. The most popular, Dover Castle, can be seen from almost anywhere in the town. The castle has been a royal fortress for over 800 years, and because of its strategic position was known as the Key of England. An easy way to appreciate the background is to take one of the audio-guided tours.
What a breathtaking view. From here, you get a very good idea of the size and complexity of the castle's defences.
On the western side of Dover is the Grand Shaft, a unique spiral staircase built in 1807 to allow troops to move quickly down through the cliffs to the harbour. It's actually 3 separate staircases, one above the other, all in the same shaft. The Old Town Jail is a reconstruction of Dover's Victorian courthouse and prison. The models are only models. Film is skillfully used to give them life.
No veg, no decent meat, that's what killed him. Not no judgment from on high.
7 miles north of Dover is Warmer Castle. Built by Henry VIII in 1540, it's now the official residence of the Lords Warden of the Cinque Ports, currently Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother. The castle gardens are beautifully kept and open to the public most days in the summer, except Mondays. Further along the coast is the small town of Deal. The Time Ball Tower is one of only 4 working time balls left in the world. It was used as a time signal to ships, dropping every day at exactly 1 p.m. Deal is where Julius Caesar invaded Britain. Nowadays, the local council see the threat as dogs, and they're determined to keep their seafront as clean as possible. As piers go, Deal's is relatively new, built in 1957. It's used mainly by anglers. Middle Street is a conservation area with many pretty cottages and quaint alleys. And if the weather's too bad for pottering around, a visit to Tides, an artificial indoor seaside with its wave machine and water slide, is considered a great day out for all ages. To really explore the area, though, you'll need a car. Then you'll see why Kent is called the Garden of England. The countryside is quite flat, but you'll soon come across one of the many local picturesque villages, thatched cottages and all, often around a peaceful village green. Unfortunately, though, some are on busy main roads. Another town with historical interest is Sandwich on the River Stour. Once a medieval port that thrived on cross-channel traffic, it now has a far more sedate atmosphere. It's an ideal place to pass a few hours with the firm intention of doing not very much. 2 miles from the town centre is Sandwich Bay. The approach road to the beach is privately owned and maintained by the local residents, and they charge to use it. £2.50 for a car. The beach is long and pebbly, but despite litter bins, you can't fail to notice a lot of rubbish around. It spoils an otherwise attractive area. With Kent being a great fruit-growing area, pick-your-own farms are very popular. It's an ideal way to spend a couple of hours, and you know that the fruit you end up with is always in tip-top condition. One less common fruit that seems to grow well in the area is the grape. Staples is one of 3 vineyards near Dover, linked together by a walkable trail of about 5 miles. For groups, guided tours are laid on.
But they are generally earlier than the
But they don't only use grapes. Wine made from locally grown apples are also one of their specialities.
We make it from Coxes and Brownies.
The tastings, by the way, are free. Cheers.
Now, our tips on the Dover area. If it's a clear day, we think the best thing that is free is the spectacular view over the channel from the cliff path between Dover and Deal. If it's not so clear, the well-marked Vineyard Trail is an interesting walk. If it's a rainy day, our tip is to visit the Old Town Jail in Dover, though very young children might find it a bit frightening. As usual, we have a fact sheet on the area. It's free. Just send us a stamped addressed envelope. I'll give you our address later. Now, Matthew Collins. You may remember that last week we asked Matthew to go to Krakow in Poland and then head southeast into the Tatra Mountains. Matthew, where did you base yourself?
Well, I based myself in Zakopane, which is a big tourist area just south of Krakow. And I actually got there by taxi because I was waiting for a bus and there was such mayhem at the bus station. I wasn't due to get on a bus for 4 hours. There are all these taxi drivers offering a 2-hour drive away to Zakopane for only $20. So I took a taxi and went to Zakopane.
And where did you stay?
Well, I went to the tourist office and I got an address of a private house when I got my own room for only $5, which is £3 a night. And I stayed with a couple called Barbara and Adam. And for this £3 a night, I got bed and breakfast. But because we got on so well, they also gave me 3 meals a day. And I thought this was incredibly good value, and I was paying hardly anything for it. But Adam, who was a school teacher, he told me he only earns £40 a month. So to have tourists paying £3 a night, boosts his income quite enormously.
What was the area like?
Well, I can't stress that enough that the area was absolutely beautiful. So many people said to me when I told them that I was going to Poland, they said, oh, normally I really envy you your job, but Poland, you can keep it. But I mean, Poland was wonderful. The Tatra Mountains were just like the European Alps, absolutely beautiful, a real hiker's paradise. It had a real kind of 40s or 1940s or 1950s air because coachloads of Polish tourists would descend every hour upon the town, all dressed up in sort of very antiquated hiking boots, wearing loose rucksacks, and they'd spend all their time there just going around on beautiful mountain trails, hiking sometimes for days because you could actually stay in mountain hotels sometimes.
Was there anything to do apart from hike?
Yeah, there was. I mean, I found this wonderful market there, which was a real sort of emporium for Eastern European traders from all over the place. I mean, I met this Russian who said he did all the markets in Eastern Europe. He went round to all the different countries, and he was actually from Odessa. He'd driven 1,400 kilometres, and do you know what he was selling? He was just selling a few sort of bathroom shower fitting attachments, bits of old gearbox from some clapped-out old engine, a pair of socks, a couple of plastic carrier bags, and a jar of Russian caviar. And his little stall attracted such enormous interest from all the Polish punters. So that was one thing. Another thing I found to do was go to this spa bath, which was great, because there they had, in this public swimming pool, they had a spa bath which filtered down boiling hot water from the mountains, which smelt a bit of egg, but it was wonderful because it was really hot, and that's supposed to be very good for your skin. So there were lots of things to do apart from just walking.
And what was the food like?
Well, the food was great. I mean, well, I had two different types of food, really, because when I was eating with Barbara and Adam, I had very simple food. I mean, there were lots of fruit and vegetables on sale in the shops, but Barbara and Adam said they could only afford to buy fresh fruit and veg about once a month. So we had things like soups and cold meats with them, all very basic. But when I was eating in the hotels, I could indulge in great sort of Hungarian, Russian, Polish specialities, such as stroganoff, things with sour cream, caraway seeds and dill, smoked salmon, wine, huge meal like a king for under £3 a night. So it was, it was really delicious.
Was there any nightlife?
There was nightlife. I mean, you had to root around for it a bit, but I did find this wonderful hotel which had dinner dances there. And this was an old trade union hotel. And this hotel, it was full of people aged between sort of 20 and 70, everyone muddling in together. And they had this great old Polish band that would sing all these sort of European and American pop favourites in sort of great Polish accents. So you'd have this band would suddenly start doing all these slowies, singing things like, "Are you lonesome tonight?" And all the Russian boys would come in for the slowies and try and get off with the Polish girls. So it was great. Another thing about the walking was if you got tired of the walking, you could always take these cart horses, because they have wonderful old cart horses that still ferry around all the farm produce. And if you got lazy, you could just jump on one of those.
Matthew, I must stop you. For your next assignment, we want you to go to the southwest of Ireland. You're booked on a flight from Luton to Kerry County Airport near Killarney. You're then to go to the small coastal village of Dingle, where we've arranged for you to pick up a wetsuit. You see, we want you to go swimming in the Atlantic with something of a local celebrity, a dolphin called Fungi. It's said that swimming with dolphins can be very relaxing. Come back next week and tell us if it is.
God, that sounds brilliant.
If you'd like to write to us, our address is The Travel Show, BBC North, P.O. Box 27, Manchester M61SJ. Remember, a stamped addressed envelope, please, if you want either the Dover fact sheet or the air safety leaflet. If you're away next week, we're filming in Lido de Jesolo in the northern Adriatic and around Filey and Bridlington on the east coast. Our production teams are always interested to hear the views of holidaymakers on the spot. In next week's programme, we're featuring Deauville in Normandy, Wensleydale in the Yorkshire Dales, and the swimming adventures of Matthew and Fungi. Until then, good night.
There's a chance to go behind the scenes of some of the holiday destinations featured in the Travel Show in this month's World magazine. And there's more advice for would-be travellers from that satirical scribe Victoria Wood over on BBC One in a couple of minutes as she samples the joys of a package holiday, well, as far as the airport.
Radio Times in full colour with brighter, clearer pages.
This week in the Radio Times you can find my guide to the Rough Guide to Havana.
Down here in Berkshire, read all about my new lifestyle.
Ruth, the jam looks great. What about another pound of strawberry, eh?
Peter Dean argues for the survival of local markets, and David Jason tells Radio Times why he's going straight. Radio Times, the most colourful way to put yourself in the picture.